Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl. Now, a new report on Martian life. Roll tape.
Now, there's been a lot of news about the discovery of Martian microfossils from a potato-sized meteorite that struck Antarctica 13,000 years ago. And I'm excited because, for the first time, orthodox astronomers and biologists are finally acknowledging that life just might exist on another planet, namely Mars, or that it existed sometime in the past. But if you watched our show, you know I've contended this is the truth for many, many years. And I think the strongest proof came from our Viking 1 and 2 landers. Now here's a photo taken at that time. This is from 1976, the Viking 1 lander. And I should point out, in the background here, you may be able to spot some rocks. But I immediately ask if these are really rocks or possibly lithops, L-I-T-H-O-P-S, again, for those of you taking notes. A lithop is a type of a cactus-like succulent that actually resembles a rock on Earth, but is a plant and can thrive in desert-like conditions with very little warmth. So right off, we may be looking at some form of plant life here. We can't prove it right now, but that's one possibility. On a more exciting level, however, was the series of experiments that the Viking 1 and Viking 2 landers performed on the Martian soil. They were collectively called the Viking biology experiment. In one experiment, a pyrolytic release experiment, a small soil sample was confined with radioactive CO2, carbon dioxide, to determine if there might be any microorganisms that would assimilate and then release it. And sure enough, they had positive results each and every time that experiment was performed. The second experiment was called the labeled release experiment, in which a nutrient was added to that soil and gases released. Again, positive results. And the third experiment was called the gas exchange experiment, where gases were introduced to a Martian soil sample, some were absorbed, and new gases released. Again, suggestive of bioactivity on Mars. Now, the orthodox scientists from NASA refused to declare that these showed life was there because they said they did not mirror the results on terrestrial soil samples. They didn't act like terrestrial microorganisms. But I contend that we're dealing with a different ecosystem, the Martian ecosystem. Of course we'd expect them to react differently. The fact that there were positive results of any type from these three separate experiments is positive indication, to my way of thinking, that we found microscopic life on Mars today. Not just microfossils from 4.5 billion years ago, but life today. And of course, if we have microscopic life, that's only the first stage, the tip of the iceberg, and argues for an entire evolution of life, including possibly higher forms. Now, for evidence of higher forms, we have, once again, the famous face of Mars. Now, again, I repeat, every time that I've shown this photograph to individuals, including Pat Sajak on national TV, they immediately agree that it looks like a humanoid face, with a hairline, eyes, nose, mouth, and chin. And for the record, this was taken by NASA July 20th, 1976, above an area called Cydonia in northern Mars. The dimensionality, a mile from crown to chin, 3/4 of a mile from ear to ear. This was analyzed by NASA imaging scientists at the time. They determined that the face of Mars is inherently different from the surrounding terrain, suggesting that it might be created structures such as Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, Stone Mountain in Georgia, the statue of Buddha in Bambi in Afghanistan, and the Sphinx in Egypt. Then, just a few years ago, another scientist independently analyzed the photo and published an article in the Journal of Applied Optics arguing that from every conceivable viewing angle, the face of Mars retains its integrity, that it's not a trick of light and shadow, that it's not an optical illusion. So I believe that this is proof that intelligent life once existed on the red planet Mars. Conceivably, as the Martian atmosphere thinned, these entities either migrated underground or perhaps underwater, such as under the North Pole or South Pole of Mars. Again, I'm saying on our show that Mars is alive. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Now, until next time, may the power of the cosmos and of the Martians be with you. Yes, yes, yes.